Well, that certainly was a show. This is Derek J407 here to talk to you guys about the 2018 edition of WWE Survivor Series, live from the Staples Center in Los Angeles, California, and that was definitely a show. So I guess we saw tonight that Raw is the superior brand in all ways, shape, and form imaginable. Raw swept SmackDown 6-0. And the only win SmackDown got the entire night took place on the pre-show, and they didn't even count it. In fact, when brought up on commentary by Corey Graves, it was outright buried and squashed by Michael Cole as just being on the pre-show, so it didn't matter. So, Raw won the women's matches, the other champion versus champion matches, tag team matches, they won everything. Raw dominated this show. And yet, I can't completely hate on this show because there was a lot of good stuff. The last two matches were really good. The angle at the end of the women's match was really, really good. There was a good match between Nakamura and Seth Rollins. The Cruiserweights got a big spot and a big shine on the main card of this pay-per-view, and they had a really good match. That main event, although it was scary as hell for like the first 10 minutes of it, turned into a really good match. The crowd was very lively throughout the entire night, so there was a lot of good stuff about this show, yet I'm still leaving it very disappointed and underwhelmed. But as I try to collect my thoughts here, let's go ahead and get into things. Start off with the kickoff show. They showed a vignette for Lars Sullivan, of course, a big guy from NXT. He's getting called up. Not sure what roster he's going to, but I'm not so sure he should be getting called up this soon. I don't think he's ready for the main roster. He's improved immensely from where he started out, but I don't know if he's ready for the main roster yet. But they're gonna go ahead and do it, so whatever. And the aforementioned tag team elimination match took place on the kickoff. The teams from Raw, the team captains Bobby Roode and Chad Gable, the Ascension, the Lucha House Party, the Revival, and the B Team taking on SmackDown, captained by the Usos. Following them were the New Day, Sanity, the Good Brothers, Gallows and Anderson, and Primo and Epico. It was a pretty sloppy match, to be honest with you. There were a lot of botches, a lot of mistimed moves, a lot of stuff that just didn't quite fit together. But there was some really good stuff going down the stretch. It came down to the Usos and the Revival. Not going to really go through the entire thing. I shouldn't really dictate this much time to it since it doesn't matter. But it did come down to the Usos and the Revival, and they had a pretty good back and forth. But ultimately, it led to the Usos getting double super kicks on both Dash and Dawson. I believe it was Jimmy who hit the splash on Scott Dawson to get the win. And I put in my notes that this meant that SmackDown was up 1-0. But then we get to the first match in the actual pay-per-view, and they said that Raw was up 1-0 because that match didn't count. No idea why it didn't. It makes you wonder what the hell was the point in even having the match. What does that tell you about the tag team division overall? I know they buried the Raw tag team division on Raw last week when Braun Strowman came out in yet another battle royal this year and demolished the entire tag team. Each team doesn't get any type of reactions whatsoever. So they buried them. Now they buried the entire division by having this match on the pre-show go like 20-something minutes, have these guys killing each other, literally, almost in some cases with some of the botches here, but they have these guys killing each other, all for their match to not count as a win for SmackDown in any way. I wonder if that's going to get brought up by like the New Day or the Usos or anybody on TV this week, I would assume it has to be. You can't just ignore it and treat this match like it was nothing. That's pretty... Like, they just outright buried the tag team division, and resulting in burying Raw, which they did a pretty good job, burying SmackDown, I should say, which they did a pretty good job of doing. Starting with the first match, the women's elimination match. Team captain of Raw, Alexa Bliss, of course, due to injuries, multiple concussions. She can't wrestle, but she was there at ringside. So the rest of the team was Nia Jax, who was just drowned in booze because of what she did to Becky Lynch last week, and they're running with it. Tamina, Mickie James, and Sasha Banks and Bayley were late additions because Natalya and Ruby Riott were originally on the team, but they got kicked off because they were fighting on the pre-show. So Sasha and Bayley made it on to the pay-per-view. And so going through some of the eliminations, Tamina eliminated Naomi with a super kick, and right after that, Carmella rolled up Tamina to eliminate her. Later on, Mandy Rose, who was there for SmackDown. Did I mention the teams from SmackDown? Naomi was the captain. You had Sonya Deville. Mandy Rose took Charlotte's spot. Carmella and Asuka. Like, this match, I cared so little about it that I forgot to mention who were on the other teams. And I put all my attention on Raw, which WWE did tonight, so I'm fitting in. But Mandy Rose eliminated Mickie James. After Sonya Deville beat her down, Mandy kind of stole the win from her. Bayley and Carmella mixed it up a little bit. Of course, another good friend, so that was interesting to see. Bayley eliminated Carmella with the Bayley to belly. Sasha later on locked Mandy Rose in the bank statement and made her tap out to it. There was a brawl between Bayley and Sonya Deville that led to them fighting on the outside. Both were legal, so the referee was counting, and Bayley managed to hit a Bayley to belly on Sonya on the outside, but she could not make it back in the ring in time, so both women got counted out. And it came down to Asuka being the sole survivor for her team, much like she did last year, against the other side of Sasha Banks and Nia Jax. And once it came down to here, I knew exactly what was about to happen, and they did exactly that. It led to Sasha Banks and Asuka mixing up a little bit. The crowd was hot for Asuka. They were really in love with her, more so because of Nia Jax on the other side. But they were really into Asuka. But Sasha had her down. She went up to the top rope, and then Nia Jax came over, shoved her off the top rope, and shoved her right into the Asuka lock, which Sasha tapped to. And while Asuka was still down, Nia hit like a good couple of leg drops on her, hit her with a Samoan drop, and got the win. Of course, the fans were pissed. The one person who had the most heat in this entire match was the sole survivor. Like I said, as soon as I saw who it came down to, I knew exactly what was going to happen. I knew Nia would cause Sasha to lose and then get the win for herself. And that's exactly what happened here. They did it last year with Triple H and Kurt Angle on Raw. So I figured here, when you saw the setup, they would do it again here. It makes sense. Nia is, now a big heel. And she's gonna ride the wave of heat that she garnered from legitimately knocking out Becky Lynch on Raw last week and knocking her out of the Survivor Series main event. Not that who knows if it would have been the actual main event, but the most anticipated match by a majority of fans. But so Nia gets the win. Up next, we had Seth Rollins versus Shinsuke Nakamura, Intercontinental Champion, taking on the United States Champion. The crowd was into both men. A lot of Let's Go Rollins, Nakamura dueling chants. So they were into both guys. They were a little quiet for the early part of the match because the early part of the match was a little slow. both men got cheers, but it was a little slow. They weren't doing a whole lot. But things started to pick up quite a bit going towards the end of things. Of course, Rollins, did his stuff, his dives through the ropes and all that kind of stuff. Nakamura with the sit kicks, not his shoes, but actual kicks. So a lot of cool stuff there. There was one cool thing that happened where Seth was going for a clothesline. He had Nakamura's arm. He was going to pull him in for a clothesline, and Nakamura reversed it into a triangle choke. So I thought that was a pretty cool thing. Rollins hit the ripcord knee, but it was only good for a 2 count. Went up top for a frog splash, but missed the frog splash. Nakamura gave him a knee right to the back of the head, but it was only good for a 2 count. And then towards the finish, there was this crazy sequence of blocking the Kinshasa, blocking the stomp, and all that kind of stuff, until finally Nakamura went for the Kinshasa one more time, but Rollins kind of scooped out of it, and Nakamura was on his knees, head down, which gave Rollins the opening to hit the stomp, and got the 1, 2, 3. And so, at this point, Raw was up 2-0 against SmackDown. So, because the pre-show didn't count. But I thought it was a good match. It was the best match so far, but it was only the second one. And coming out of the show, it was one of the things I liked. So, there's that. But, yeah, so good stuff. Up next was the Tag Team Champions facing each other. The Raw Tag Team Champions, AOP, with Drake Maverick in their corner, taking on The Bar, Sheamus and Cesaro, with the Big Show in their corner. And of course, you don't care about the match. None of you do, because all of you cared about what was happening in the crowd. Now, earlier on, I think it was during the Nakamura-Seth Rollins match that people started to really notice. People zoomed in on their network feeds and screenshotted onto Twitter posts of someone not in the front row, but like in the second or third row in the crowd on the hard camera, who looked an awful lot like Enzo Amore, former Cruiserweight champion, former other half of the famous duo of himself and Big Cass in NXT and on Raw. So he had a hoodie on and glasses. He was poorly disguised, but people could see it was him, and I thought, wow, that looks a lot like him. But then you could see more and more, wait, that really is him. And then sure enough, before this match started, we see the commotion going on in the crowd. The crowd starts, going crazy for something, and we see this guy in the blonde spiked hair going crazy, and then we see him run away. The security's after him. So yeah, Enzo Amore broke out of his hoodie and stuff and revealed himself to the crowd, started going through his shtick, the whole you can't teach that, bada boom, realest guy in the room, how you doing, which caused the crowd to chant, how you doing. He was up in his chair, and then he got tackled by a security. He tried to run away, but then the security escorted him out. There are several videos available online showing what happened here. So, I don't understand it. Enzo, of course, got fired early this year over rape allegations that he was eventually cleared of, and since then, he released a music video for a song. He just recently released an album that has a song on it about Liv Morgan, his former girlfriend, to which she just kind of buried, as she did this, because it's worth burying. But I assume Enzo just wanted to get attention, which he got. His name was trending on Twitter. Everyone was talking about it. The video of it was circulating from all different angles, some far away, some close up, like some really good angles of it. So, if that's what he wanted, he got exactly what he wanted. So, in WWE, they took a lot of steps to avoid showing all that stuff on the cameras. They tried their hardest to avoid it. The commentators said nothing about it. But yeah. See, if Enzo wanted to really make an impact, he would have done something in the main event. But I guess he didn't want to be there the whole night. But yeah. So that was interesting. As for the actual match, it was nothing. The finish came when Sheamus hit a bro kick on Razor of the AOP. Drake Maverick on the outside, he put Razor's foot on the rope, so that caused the ref break. And then Cesaro, who was outside, he tried to chase down Drake Maverick. He chased him around the ring from the bar's corner and all the way to the other side, where Big Show caught him, propped him up on the apron, had his hand wrapped around his throat like he was about to choke him out, and he was stalling. He wasn't doing anything, and Drake had this pained expression on his face, and I'm like, they're not about to do what I think they're about to do, because he was out there wearing not bright colored pants, but like, you know, easily seen through pants, and sure enough, they had Drake Maverick piss his pants. A little streak of pee ran down Drake Maverick's leg because the Big Show made him piss his pants. Then back in the ring, the AOP hit some kind of double team move on Sheamus and got the win, so Raw was up 3-0 at this, like it even matters. Raw won the entire night. It doesn't matter what number they were here. So the story of this match was Enzo Amore acting like a jackass in the crowd and Drake Maverick pissing his pants. That's that. Now, WWE had no control over the Enzo situation, but the pissing his pants part, really, was that even necessary? But it is what it is. Up next, we got the Cruiserweight Championship match. It was Buddy Murphy defending the Cruiserweight Championship against Mustafa Ali. Very good seeing the Cruiserweights get a prominent spot on the main card of the pay-per-view. Aside from Super Showdown last month, that hasn't really happened. And I don't even really count that, because while it was a pay-per-view, it was overseas and it was a special thing. But this is the first time in a long time the Cruiserweights have been represented on the main card of a pay-per-view. And I thought, you know, this show is not going to top TakeOver, which it didn't. But did you even need me to tell you that? It didn't. But I thought if there's one match on this show that could come close to matching something that we saw from TakeOver the previous night, it would be this match. And to a certain degree, they kind of did that. This was a great match, one of the best matches of the entire night. Murphy was tossing Ali's ass all around the ring, dumping him out of the ring several times. At one point, Ali was on the top rope, and Buddy Murphy came through and shoved him off the top rope all the way out to the barricade back first, and that looked brutal. At one point later on, Ali tried to do like some kind of roll through move through the ropes, but when he did, he got caught by Buddy Murphy, and Murphy just launched him over the top rope onto the outside. Then Buddy hit a really cool dive, but Mustafa Ali was getting his ass kicked for a good part of this match. He did make a quick comeback though. He hit a reverse Rana that kind of spiked Murphy's head into the mat, which looked brutal. Another example of Ali getting tortured by getting thrown to the outside. He attempted his reverse 450, or 054 as he calls it, and tried to go for it, but then he got tossed out and landed face first on the apron on the outside of the ring, so that looked brutal. Then Murphy went over to the outside and cleared off the announce table. He was going for something, but Ali managed to, follow him. They fought a little bit, and Mustafa Ali hit a Spanish fly off of the announce table onto the floor, which prompted the crowd to chant 205. So that was very interesting. This is a move, I think I've even seen this move done between these two guys in a match earlier this year. Actually, no, it was a Spanish fly off the barricade onto the table. The table didn't break, but they had a match earlier this year that was one of the better matches of the entire year so far. And Ali hit that same move, but it was onto the table. Maybe he hit it off the table too, I'm not sure, but that looked brutal. Ali went for another attempt at the 054, but Murphy kind of pulled him by the hair and pulled him down, so his head was positioned between his legs, and then Murphy gave him a brutal super kick, pulled him over, hit 2 power bombs. The first one, hit it, and then pulled him back up and hit him with another one, a sit-out bomb, but it was only good for a 2 count. Then Ali made a comeback, and he was going for a dive, but he had his back turned, so when he came backwards for the dive, Murphy caught him with a high knee right to the jaw, hit him with his Murphy's Law finisher, and got the win. So Buddy Murphy, as I expected him to, retained the Cruiserweight Championship. But, yeah, great match. Great back and forth between these guys, and like I said, I'm very happy to see them on the main card. Now, if we can get some Cruiserweight action to open up WrestleMania next year, that would be even better, too. I thought it should have happened earlier this year at WrestleMania with Mustafa Ali and Cedric Alexander, but they didn't do that. So it's good to see all these months later them get a prominent spot on the main card. You have 2 of the best talents in the entire company. So, one of the top 2 or 3 best matches of the entire night, in my opinion. Up next was the men's Survivor Series elimination match. Team captain, the acting general manager of Monday Night Raw, Baron Corbin, and his team of Dolph Ziggler, Finn Balor, Bobby Lashley, Drew McIntyre, and Braun Strowman, going up against SmackDown's team, captained by The Miz, along with Shane McMahon, the best in the world, by the way, Samoa Joe, Jeff Hardy, and Rey Mysterio. So right off the bat, Team Raw is dysfunctional as hell. Drew and Braun are arguing over who's going to start. Braun wins out, and then Drew immediately tags himself in. The 2 of them have a stare down, and Samoa Joe, who started out for Team SmackDown, came in and locked Drew in the Coquina Clutch. It looked like Drew was going to be the one to get eliminated early, but instead, he managed to slip out of it. I think he kind of launched him into the corner, and then knocked Joe back a little bit, and then he came forward and hit the Claymore kick and eliminated Samoa Joe within the first 2 minutes of this match. So, for anyone still holding out hope that Samoa Joe can be anything legitimate on this main roster, despite his talents, despite the fact that he's probably the best mic worker in the entire company, that shit don't matter. I can't take him seriously. After he lost the feud with AJ multiple times, he tapped out. He just got flat out beat at Crown Jewel. He's lost several feuds this year. He's been hurt a lot. And now here, I can't take him seriously. So, he was gone. The fans chanting bullshit, which it was, but it is what it is. Can't take Joe seriously anymore. Braun tagged himself in. Dolph was in there. Dolph got in the ring, and he was extending his hand to be tagged in by Drew, but Braun reached over and tagged himself in. And then Drew tagged himself back in, and the 2 of them started to brawl, which led to a huge brawl with everyone that eventually led to SmackDown taking down Braun Strowman. And Miz, Hardy, and Mysterio put Strowman on a announce table on the outside, encouraged Shane McMahon to go up top, which he did, and he came crashing down onto Braun with an elbow drop through the table. So, I believe we saw this at Survivor Series a few years ago, so if it ain't broke. But it didn't work to keep him down back then. Well, he did get counted out with the help of James Ellsworth, who has had a little bit of trouble this weekend with the naked photos getting sent to a underage girl, allegedly. I mean, innocent until proven guilty, in my opinion, but it doesn't look good for Mr. Ellsworth. But it is what it is. Braun isn't the only person that Drew McIntyre has problems with. Him and Finn Balor were having a little bit of a disagreement. McIntyre was down, so he had no one to tag except for Balor, but he hesitated. But then McIntyre got thrown back into the corner, and Balor tagged himself in, and then he kicked McIntyre off of the apron onto the floor. So, some partner he is. So Balor mixes it up with the SmackDown guys, Miz and Rey Mysterio, they had a little back and forth, which was cool. And it led to a 619 and a frog splash from Rey Mysterio to Finn Balor to eliminate him, which, you know, of course led to Drew McIntyre attacking him right immediately afterwards. So anyone could have saw that coming. From there, the rest of the match was pretty basic. Rey Mysterio got a chance to shine, so did Jeff Hardy. At one point, Jeff tried to hit a swanton bomb on Dolph Ziggler, but Dolph blocked it with a knee. But managed to tag in, I believe it was The Miz, who then tagged in Shane McMahon and encouraged him to go up top on one side of the ring while he held Dolph seated in the corner on the other side and held him in position for Shane to hit coast to coast yet again, for which he landed and pinned Dolph and eliminated him. So the same way he won at Crown Jewel to become the best in the world, he did the exact same thing here and pinned Dolph Ziggler again. Dolph has been dead for years now, so it doesn't really matter. They attempted to do the same thing to Bobby Lashley, but when Shane was up in the air, Braun out of nowhere got back up on the apron and clotheslined Shane right out of midair and crashed right down onto the mat. Braun tags himself back in, and then he proceeds to demolish the rest of Team SmackDown. He hits a power slam on Jeff Hardy, eliminates him. Ray tried to put up a good fight. He put Braun in position for a 619. He got his feet around, but Braun caught him and hit him with a power slam, eliminated him. Miz noticed that it was just him against Braun, Drew McIntyre, and Bobby Lashley, with only himself and Shane McMahon at his side. And he put up a valiant effort, but in the end, he got laid out with a power slam as well and got eliminated. So it came down to Shane McMahon all by himself for Team SmackDown up against Braun, Bobby, and Drew McIntyre. And it led to Shane, he was telling him to come on, but Braun hit him with his power slam and got the win for Team Raw. So Raw won in very dominant fashion. Braun got his heat back, so that was cool. After the match, Braun had his back turned and Baron Corbin hit him from behind. Got a cheap shot in because the stipulation that Braun had going into this match, he agreed with Stephanie McMahon that he would be a team player. He wouldn't put a hand on Baron Corbin, and then if he did that, he would get all the stuff that he wants, which is a match for the Universal title with Brock Lesnar and a match with Baron Corbin where he gets to pick the stipulation. So before Braun had a chance to attack, Corbin got the upper hand here, but I assume Corbin's death will be met at the TLC pay-per-view. But yeah, a chaotic match, but Raw dominated. It made SmackDown look like a bunch of bitches. So there you go. Backstage, Seth Rollins had an interview talking about the match with Nakamura, and Charlie Caruso informed him that he would be facing Dean Ambrose for the Intercontinental Championship at the TLC pay-per-view in 4 weeks, so we have that to look forward to. Don't know if they're going to add a stipulation to it or not, but that's what's going to happen. Up next, these last two matches, honestly, how could anyone care about them? Raw already won in dominant fashion, so there was no point in really rooting for either of these main events, but we got them. The first one was Raw Women's Champion Ronda Rousey taking on Charlotte Flair. Of course, this was supposed to be Becky Lynch, the SmackDown Women's Champion, but unfortunately, like I mentioned earlier, the incident on Raw with Nia Jax and the big SmackDown invasion of Raw, and led to Becky getting a broken face, as WWE told us, and a concussion, so she couldn't wrestle here. But hopefully that match is saved for WrestleMania, although I'm not so sure now after what happened in this match. The match was really good. It was really good. This was probably one of the better Ronda Rousey matches since she made her debut. Charlotte, of course, is excellent, one of the best performers in the entire women's division, and in the entire company for that matter. So she got a great match out of Ronda Rousey here. There was a lot of great back and forth between the two of them. Ronda started bleeding from the mouth. I don't know if it was internal bleeding or if she got blood, something busted inside of her mouth. I'm not sure what happened, but she was bleeding from the mouth, and it made for pretty cool visuals. Of course, the two of them had dueling submissions. Ronda tried to lock in her armbar. Charlotte locked in the figure four. Couldn't turn into the figure eight, but she did have the figure four in there. Ronda reversed it, but then both of them rolled to the outside. Ronda started to make a comeback, started ragdolling Charlotte and giving her the jabs and all that kind of stuff. Charlotte broke out of it and started chopping her. And they're still going back and forth here. Ronda eventually hit that fireman's carry slam that she's been doing. The commentators mentioned that she has now called it the Piper's Pit. So, and tribute to Roddy Piper, who is one of her favorites of all time. So we see the finish here. She hit that move, and Charlotte kind of rolled out of the ring, or Charlotte did something. Either way, she made her way out to the ring, and the referee's counting, and Charlotte's out there for a very long time. The crowd is chanting, "Let's go Charlotte, let's go Charlotte," all that kind of stuff. It looks like she's getting motivated to get back in the ring, which she does, but immediately rolls back out. And the referee counts, and then Ronda goes to the other side of the ring on the outside, runs around trying to go right after Charlotte, and then once she comes around, Charlotte catches her with a kendo stick shot right to the gut. Caused the DQ. Hated the DQ finish. Let me get that out the way right now. This was a great match, a really competitive back and forth match, probably Ronda's best match since coming to WWE, which I imagine it would have been had she faced Becky Lynch. So great stuff, but I hated the DQ finish. Hate DQ finishes on pay-per-views in general, though. But what came next was awesome. Charlotte proceeded to beat the hell out of Ronda Rousey with this kendo stick. The stick was just completely obliterated, being rained down upon Ronda Rousey. She had marks and bruises after the whole thing was done because of this. Charlotte then got a steel chair and started to beat. She was about to beat her down with it, but then the referee kind of pulled her back. Looked like Charlotte was going to leave, but then she came back in and hit a natural selection onto the chair. More referees came in, and she was taking all of them out. She was shoving some of them back, spearing them, just beating down all the referees. And then she wrapped the chair around Ronda's neck and throat and stomped on the chair. So, just a completely brutal beatdown of Ronda Rousey here. The fans were loving it, chanting, "Thank you, Charlotte." Not really sure why. They were so anti-Ronda. It's not like Ronda was the one who broke Becky's face. That was Nia, I guess, by default. Because she was Becky's opponent, and Charlotte was in this match representing not only SmackDown, but Becky Lynch. I guess that's why. I'm not sure. But, yeah. So that was that. She left, and Ronda was there, being helped out by officials and backstage agents and all that kind of stuff that came out there. The fans, of course, they're either not reacting, booing her. There were a few spatters of "You deserve it" chants, but overall, the biggest chant going on was for Becky Lynch, who wasn't even here. They weren't even chanting for Charlotte. They weren't even saying, get up or anything like that. They were chanting for Becky Lynch. So, the spirit of Becky lived on here. This was insane. I definitely did not see this coming. I'm not sure what this is leading to. Either it's leading to them continuing on with their original plan of doing Charlotte and Ronda in the main event of WrestleMania next year, or they're going to do a triple threat with Charlotte and Becky involved, or this is a teaser for an eventual horsewomen versus horsewomen match later down the line. I'm not sure what this is leading to. I assume now that Becky is hurt, she'll be stripped of her championship, and in her absence, they're going to need a new top heel woman on that division, and they turned Charlotte for that specific reason, I guess. I don't know. But she was no heel in front of this crowd. They loved it, and they hated Ronda, and I thought it was interesting how they showed Ronda looking out at the crowd as they were booing her, and they even had Corey Graves mention it on commentary, so I assume not that it will immediately lead to something, but that could have been a seed planted for something. Like, they had to have known what the reaction was going to be. Just like at SummerSlam when Becky laid out Charlotte, they had to have known what the reaction to that was going to be. Here, like, you have to know exactly what's going to happen. This crowd is no, maybe they didn't. Maybe with Becky not being in the match and instead being Charlotte, maybe they thought Ronda would end up getting a positive reaction, because had there been Becky out there, Ronda would have been flat out booed in general. As is, she got mixed reactions until this part, but during the match she got mixed reactions. But had it been Becky out there, that wouldn't have happened. So I don't know, maybe they thought she would get a more favorable reaction, but it was not that. So that was very interesting, and even overall, at the end of the show, that was the best thing about this entire show. The women stole the show. And coming out of the show, Charlotte is one of the most talked about women. So, good for her. Then the main event, champion versus champion, the Universal Champion Brock Lesnar taking on the new WWE Champion and newly turned heel, Daniel Bryan, who of course kicked AJ Styles in the balls on SmackDown Live this past week and won the WWE Championship. Came out here, didn't do the yes chants. He started doing it, but he immediately stopped. And, yeah, so he's already playing up the heel role. Brock came out and he was mocking Brock and, mocking his bouncing and kind of walking around the ring and stuff. When the bell rang, Bryan left the ring and was mocking him. The crowd was hating it. They were pissed off about it, about how cocky Bryan was being, and it looked like they were ready to see Brock kill Bryan, and that's exactly what they got. From there, Brock eventually caught Bryan and gave him a German suplex, and it looked like he landed right on his head. So the last rites were already being written for Daniel Bryan at this point. He proceeded to get his ass kicked, a bunch of suplexes, a lot of them with him landing seemingly on his neck and head. It was pretty brutal. Brock eventually hit the F5. Well, before that, he put him in a bear hug, then slammed him, and the crowd was chanting bullshit, same old shit. They were pissed. Then he picked Bryan up for the F5, hit the F5, went for the cover, but then right before the ref could hit 3, he pulled Bryan up and basically he said this is not it, because throughout the match at this point he was saying I can do this all night long, all that kind of stuff. Bryan had a dead, glossy-eyed look on his face, so he looked dead. Brock was about to go pick him up, and then Bryan started to kick him in the head and was pissing off Brock, so Brock picked him up, going for the F5 again, but kind of Bryan used his momentum to kind of push forward into the referee to knock him down temporarily, so Bryan could low blow Brock, just like he did AJ on SmackDown, and he hit him with the running knee, and everyone thought that was it. That was a really crazy near fall. It was like the previous night at TakeOver when Velveteen Dream hit that Dream Valley driver on the concrete on the outside, got Tommaso Ciampa back in the ring and hit him with the elbow. That was a close near fall. This one was just as close, if not closer. And from there, Bryan got back into things. He started to kick Brock around. He was doing this whole thing where he was holding Brock's ropes, was holding his arms and was stomping on his face. That's what he did to AJ on SmackDown. And Bryan was, he was putting up a good fight. Bryan tried to go for a dive. Brock caught him and was ramming him into the steel post. And then with Bryan kind of laid up on the apron right by the post, Brock got these steel steps and were about to shove them right into Bryan's face, but Bryan moved And when he did, the steps kind of bounced back into Brock and knocked him down. And that led to Bryan hitting a running knee from the apron. Got him back in the ring, hit him with another flying knee, and only good for a 2 count. Then Bryan went for a chop block and wrapped his knee around the ring post. Started to hit his corner drop kicks and stuff, but Brock caught him. Tried to go for the F5, but then Brock collapsed, which led to Bryan locking Brock in the yes lock. And the fans were really into it at this point. Bryan came out cocky, which made the fans sour on him, wanted to see Brock kill him. Once he was starting to, they gained sympathy for Bryan, and then once Bryan was making his comeback here, they were really into him. So Brock eventually tried to break out of it, but Bryan started to rain down some blows on him, and then he managed to reapply the yes lock, and then Brock kind of countered it, but Bryan turned it into a triangle choke, but Brock maneuvered his way out of that, hit the F5, and got the 1-2-3 on Daniel Bryan. Brock Lesnar wins. The outcome was in no doubt, but Bryan got some good hope spots in there, and this is a match that a lot of people, myself included, have wanted to see for years, but I did not expect their characters to be what they currently are. I think if they wanted to turn Daniel Bryan heel, they could have waited a week and let Bryan play the babyface in peril underdog role. That would have worked better. As is, the crowd was still into him, and they were rooting for him to win, and I thought he was going to in that initial low blow knee spot, but it wasn't to be. So with that, closed out the show, and we all have to digest the fact that the show, the brand, that's getting a $205 million TV deal with Fox next fall, got beat 6-0. 6-1, because SmackDown got a win on the pre-show, but they got creamed. They got crushed by Raw. Raw clean sweeped SmackDown in their mind. That's exactly what happened. Stephanie McMahon mentioned in the backstage segment earlier in the night with Baron Corbin that she wanted Raw to clean sweep them, and that's exactly what happened. Like I said, it's bad enough you bury your tag team division, and now you bury an entire show. You bury an entire brand. I know Raw is their baby, ultimately. Even with the big TV deal for SmackDown, Raw is still their A number one. That's their A show. That's how they perceive that show. But this was still very bad. But, like I said, there was still a lot of good stuff on the show. Nakamura and Seth Rollins had a really good match. The Cruiserweights, the women stole it with Charlotte and Ronda. And in that main event, much like last year where it was Brock dominating for the first half and then AJ came in for the second half, it was the same thing here with Brock and Bryan. But still a weird show, and I'm not cool with the clean sweep. But yeah, I don't know. I guess thumbs in the middle. Very unenthusiastic about this show. But still a lot of good stuff on it. But yeah, I don't know, man. But that's it for me now. So I guess I'll be back for TLC. So talk to you guys later.